evening of September 29, 1913 was a pleasant one on the SS Dresden. The modest liner departed Antwerp on a routine voyage to London. Her most famous passenger, Rudolf Diesel, dined with two colleagues, George Carls and Alfred Luckmann. The three men were traveling to London on business for the Consolidated Diesel Manufacturing Company. George made a toast to the success of the company and the good fortune the diesel engine would bring them. After dinner, the three men took a walk on deck. It was a beautiful evening, and Diesel looked back at the coast of Europe as it faded into the distance. The three men enjoyed the evening until around 10 p.m., when they retired to their cabins for the night. They agreed that they would meet again at 6:15 the next morning for breakfast. The night passed quietly. The next morning, George and Alfred met as planned in the dining saloon and waited for their friend. But Rudolph never joined them. Finally, George went down to Rudolph's cabin, thinking that perhaps he might have overslept. He knocked on the door. When no one answered, he let himself in, only to find an empty cabin. Rudolph's bunk had not been slept in. Some of his personal effects had been laid out, including a clean, unused nightshirt. But for the most part, his luggage remained untouched. Rudolf Diesel, the inventor of the diesel engine, had vanished without a trace. George Carroll immediately went to the bridge and reported the disappearance to Captain H. Hubert. The captain ordered the Dresden stopped and a thorough search was carried out, but the missing man was nowhere to be found. The two seamen assigned watch the previous night were interviewed, but neither noticed anything out of the ordinary. Early that morning, a coat and a hat were found neatly folded beneath the railing on the promenade deck at the stern of the ship. Carroll's confirmed that the coat and hat belonged to Rudolf Diesel. With that grim discovery, the Dresden continued on to Parkeston Quay in Harwich, arriving only 1 hour behind schedule on September 30th. The missing man was reported to British authorities and conveyed to the German vice-consul in Harwich. The Germans took the disappearance very seriously, as Diesel's work was vital to the German Imperial Navy, and investigators were sent to search the Dresden and interview those involved, but these efforts failed to turn up any new information. Diesel's cabin provided very few clues. His steel-cased pocket watch lay on the side table, and his keys still hung from the lock in his suitcase. Other personal effects were missing, including an enameled pillbox, his eyeglasses, a coin purse, and his penknife. His notebook lay on the desk, open to a page with nothing but the date he vanished, September 29, 1913, written in pencil, with a simple cross below it. The Dresden was a simple British passenger ship built for the Great Eastern Railway. She was constructed at the Earl Shipbuilding Company in Hull, East Riding of Yorkshire, England. Launched on November 17, 1896, the 1,830-ton liner provided regular service on the North Sea between Harwich and the Hook of Holland. Only 2 years after Diesel's mysterious disappearance, the Dresden was pressed into service shortly after the outbreak of World War I for the Royal Navy and converted into an armed boarding steamer. On January 21, 1918, she was torpedoed in the Aegean Sea by the German U-boat SM-UC-22, a submarine powered by diesel engines. 221 lives were lost. Only 16 men survived. Not long before Rudolf Diesel vanished, he gave his wife Martha a leather overnight bag and told her not to open it until the following week. When she searched the bag, she found it stuffed with 20,000 German marks, equivalent to roughly $150,000 US in today's currency. The bag also contained several bank statements, indicating that Diesel was virtually penniless at the time of his disappearance. Rudolf Diesel was born in Paris, France in 1858 to Bavarian immigrants. His family struggled financially, and Rudolf often worked in his father's leather shop, while also attending school. In 1870, the family was deported at the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War and relocated to London. Rudolf moved to Augsburg to live with his aunt and uncle, and soon developed a passion for engineering. After graduating in 1880, he took a job with Carl von Linde, assisting with his ice and refrigeration plant. Diesel quickly developed an interest in thermodynamics. As his career advanced, he began experimenting with new engine designs that could improve on the inefficiencies of the steam engine. His research and experiments led him to a theoretical design for an internal combustion engine. In 1893, he published a treatise presenting his new design, entitled Theory and Construction of a Rational Heat Engine to Replace the Steam Engine and the Combustion Engines Known Today. He filed for a patent, and in 1897 he tested the first successful diesel engine. While his initial design proved unreliable, it demonstrated the capabilities of the diesel engine, and orders for the new technology quickly poured in, generating a great deal of wealth and fame for the inventor. The military applications of the new engine were clear. It could run cleaner and more efficiently than steam and the other combustion engines available at the time. Germany's first generation of U-boats ran on kerosene engines, which produced thick exhaust, robbing the U-boats of their main advantage: stealth. Diesel burned cleaner and more efficiently, making it an ideal alternative. Starting with the U-19 class in 1912, German U-boats were built with diesel engines. This proved a great success. By 1913, Rudolf Diesel and his company were on the rise. Multiple countries expressed interest in the technology for military and naval uses. In September 1913, Diesel was headed to London to meet with the Royal Navy to explore using his engine in their fleet of submarines. While it appeared that Diesel was a wealthy man, his disappearance brought his finances into question. It seemed that Diesel used the wealth generated by his company to invest in a series of ventures that either failed or had yet to pay out, leaving him significantly more indebted than anyone realized. This and the X drawn in his notebook next to the date of his disappearance led some to conclude that Diesel had taken his own life. But others strongly doubted this conclusion. Diesel's company was undoubtedly on the rise, promising strong income for many years to come. Nothing about his demeanor around the time of his disappearance suggested to anyone that he was contemplating something so drastic. Diesel's high-profile work with the German Navy led others to believe that his disappearance was more nefarious. His engine offered a distinct advantage to the U-boat program, and Diesel refused to grant the German government exclusive rights to the technology. Some even speculated that the disappearance was part of an elaborate defection to the British, and Diesel moved to Canada to assist at the Vickers shipyard in Montreal. But there is no evidence to support any of these theories. His disappearance occurred in international waters where no group had clear jurisdiction. There was no body or clear signs of wrongdoing, so no criminal investigation was ever launched, and the ship's owners never convened any formal hearing. There was never a formal evaluation of what happened to Rudolf Diesel that night on the Dresden. But then on Saturday, October 11th, almost 2 weeks after Diesel's disappearance, a Dutch pilot boat called the Koortsen spotted a body floating in the eastern Scheldt. A small oarboat was launched to collect the body. It was a rainy day with high winds, choppy seas, and low visibility. The badly decomposed body was retrieved, but as the weather continued to deteriorate, the personal effects, including a pill case, wallet, ID card, pocket knife, and an eyeglass case, were retrieved, and the body was returned to the water, never to be seen again. On October 13th, the items retrieved from the body were shown to Diesel's son Eugene Diesel. He confirmed that the personal effects belonged to his father. But the discovery did little to explain what happened to Rudolf Diesel. His life's work now powers much of the world we know today. Whether he jumped from the Dresden or fell victim to something more nefarious will probably always remain a mystery. The 20,000-ton MV Aragon was one of the last ships built for the Royal Mail Lines. Constructed in 1960 at Harland and Wolff, the same shipyard that built the Titanic and her sisters 50 years before, the gleaming white liner was modern in design and outdated in purpose. She was built to sail the South Atlantic. In late May 1962, she was just 5 days out of Buenos Aires on a routine voyage to the Canary Islands. As she neared the equator, the ship passed through a minor squall. Throughout the night of May 29th, the ship was rocked by rain and heavy seas. But to her passengers and crew, the storm was nothing more than a mild inconvenience. The next morning, a stewardess went to wake a first-class passenger staying in cabin A4. She knocked on the door and waited for a moment before entering. But the cabin was empty, and the bed had not been slept in. The stewardess reported the missing passenger, 27-year-old Olivia Irving, a film and television star, to the ship's captain, Commodore Thomas Stevens. He promptly ordered a thorough search of the Aragon, but the only trace of the missing actress was a pair of her white shoes, found on deck, sitting neatly by a railing. Olivia Irving was born on September 6, 1934 in Buenos Aires to a wealthy family. Her father, Sir Stanley Gordon Irving, was a British diplomat working in Argentina. From an early age, it was clear that Olivia was talented. Growing up, she was a skilled horsewoman and athlete. She quickly developed a passion for performing, and she enrolled at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, where she studied under the famous actress Ellen Pollock. Olivia soon began appearing in a number of plays. She was frequently singled out in reviews that praised her skilled performances and commented on her star potential. In the 1950s, she landed a series of roles in BBC-produced television movies. While her career showed considerable promise, Olivia was going through a rough patch in her personal life. She recently survived a traumatic car accident. Physically, she emerged unscathed, but the incident had a profound effect on her mental health. It left her perpetually nervous and unable to sleep. People claimed that her moods would swing wildly between high excitement and bouts of deep depression. To help her sleep and calm her nerves, doctors prescribed powerful sedatives that left her drowsy and affected her appetite. On board the Aragon, Olivia was well liked, though some, like Dr. John Jameson, the ship's surgeon, immediately picked up on her mental health struggles. June Cullen, a nurse on the ship, became close with Olivia. She later told reporters that the actress grew somewhat dependent on her during the voyage. June was one of the last people on board to see Olivia alive. The night she disappeared, Olivia hosted June and a few other passengers in her cabin after dinner. The group talked about music, and Olivia excitedly shared her love for Brahms. They eventually decided to call it an evening at around 1:15 a.m. Olivia gave June a kiss and a bear hug, and the two said goodnight. By the time Olivia's disappearance was reported to Commodore Stevens, the Aragon had steamed approximately 160 to 190 miles. Stevens decided that if she went overboard, there was virtually no chance at that point that she would be found alive, and the ship continued on to its next port in the Canary Islands, where Olivia was due to disembark. There she was due to meet her fiancé, a London physician named Nathaniel Mayer Green. The two planned on spending a holiday together. Dr. Mayer Green was devastated by the news. Swarmed by reporters when the ship arrived in Las Palmas, he could barely hold back tears. He was quoted saying, "The whole mystery has stunned me. I refuse to believe that she took her own life." Olivia was emotional, sometimes tempestuous and unpredictable, but there was no other woman in my life. We were so much in love. Olivia's disappearance was investigated, but there were few clues that led to any concrete conclusions. Her mental state at the time became a central focus. While no one could say with any certainty what happened to her that night, her use of sedatives and unpredictable emotions were considered a significant factor. Not long before her disappearance, Dr. Jameson spotted Olivia sitting on top of the ship's railing, looking out at the sea. She was always athletic and daring, never afraid to climb something to get a better view. Dr. Jameson warned her that it was dangerous. Many in her family believed that Olivia, under the influence of sedatives, fell from the rolling ship. Maybe she wanted to climb something and lost her balance. Maybe her depression led her to do something rash. In any case, what caused Olivia Irving's disappearance from the Aragon that night will probably always remain a mystery. On July 24, 1958, the passenger liner SS President Cleveland of the American President Line arrived in San Francisco with alarming news. Rear Admiral Lynne C. Quiggle, the most high-profile man on the ship, had vanished during the voyage from Japan to the United States. The ship's captain, Commodore H.D. Eman, reported that the weather was calm and the sea was smooth, making it unlikely that the experienced Navy man could have fallen overboard by accident. Several people reported that Quiggle was acting strange for most of the voyage. The captain concluded that the man must have jumped. He reported that not long before the disappearance, Quiggle woke his wife in the middle of the night and told her that she would be better off as a widow. But for some, this neat explanation was not satisfying. Lynne C. Quiggle was born in Grand Island, Nebraska on May 22, 1906. He enjoyed a normal childhood and enlisted in the United States Navy on September 12, 1924, after he graduated from high school. In 1926, he accepted an appointment to the United States Naval Academy. After graduating, he rose through the ranks, serving on a number of ships as well as several shore-based assignments. During World War II, he served as an aide to Chief of Naval Operations First Admiral Harold R. Stark and Admiral Ernest J. King, until he took command of the destroyer USS Overton in April 1942. He then served as a gunnery officer on the battleship USS Iowa, where he received a Bronze Star Medal. After the war, Quiggle continued to rise through the ranks until he became Deputy Chief of Staff, Commander of the United States Forces in Japan. He was promoted to Rear Admiral on August 1, 1957, one of the younger men in the United States Navy to achieve such a rank at the time. In July 1958, Quiggle was traveling with his wife aboard the SS President Cleveland to assume command of Amphibious Group 1 in San Diego. Built in 1947, the 15,359-ton President Cleveland was part of the American President Line's fleet of passenger ships dedicated to various trans-Pacific routes. Laid down on August 28, 1944 at the Bethlehem Shipbuilding Corporation in Alameda, California, Yard number 9509 was originally commissioned as an Admiral-class transport ship for the United States Navy. She was originally going to be named USS Admiral D.W. Taylor. But the war ended before the new ship could be launched, and she was repurposed into a commercial passenger liner. She was launched on June 23, 1946, and sailed her maiden voyage in 1947. When Quiggle's wife Anne last saw her husband, she wasn't concerned. She reported that he had been nervous and upset for much of the voyage. Around 2 hours later, she finally decided to go on deck to look for him, but he was nowhere to be found. She reported the missing admiral to Commodore Eamon, and a search was carried out on board, but no one could find any trace of the man. Eamon considered turning back, but he decided that it had been too long since the man had gone missing, and with the speed and distance traveled, there was no hope that he would be found alive in the water. The President Cleveland would carry on to San Francisco. The Commodore questioned crew members who were on duty that night. One porter reported seeing the Admiral enter and exit his cabin 4 or 5 times in the half hour before he disappeared. He claimed that Quiggle seemed restless and upset. Another passenger, Daniel J. Harkins, a Naval Reserve commander, spent some time with the Admiral during the voyage. He described him as, quote, very tired and under a lot of pressure. It now appears he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. He was worried about his health. We discussed his new responsibility, and he was anxious to measure up to it, end quote. Soon after the disappearance was reported, Anne Quiggle and the Admiral's brother issued a statement to the press disputing what was reported about Lynne C. Quiggle's final moments. His wife disputed ever saying that her husband told her that she would be better off a widow, and claimed that while he had been under a lot of pressure at the time, the reports of his mental state during the voyage were greatly exaggerated. The family was not convinced that Quiggle took his own life. After the disappearance, the 12th Naval District launched an investigation, but they failed to reach any definitive conclusion. Lynne Quiggle was only the second of 2 United States admirals ever lost at sea. Someone can seem totally fine while falling apart on the inside, and someone who seems to be struggling can pull it all together. We can never really be sure what's going on in a person's mind. What happened that night on the President Cleveland, in the mind of that man, will never be known for sure. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, support the channel with a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd like to give a special shout out to my supporters on Patreon and my channel members. Their support helps keep this channel afloat. Alright crew, that's all I've got. Until the next one, be nice to people.